The first time I made love to Ethan after suspecting he was cheating, I did it like I was trying to drown every inch of my doubt in sweat and moans. I rode him harder than I ever had. Clutched his wrists above his head like I needed to own him again. His eyes searched mine the entire time. As if he knew I was somewhere else, somewhere darker, deeper. Somewhere I didn't want to be. But I still came. Loud. Messy. Shaking. When I collapsed beside him, breathless and sticky, I whispered, "I missed this." He didn't say it back. That's when I knew. Ethan wasn't mine anymore. I'm a doctor, not a fool. I noticed changes in skin tone, breathing patterns, small inconsistencies. And lately, Ethan was full of them. A different cologne that wasn't his. Slight scratch marks on his back that didn't match my nails. Phone always face down. Hushed tones when he slipped into the hallway late at night to check on a client. He was a corporate lawyer. He didn't have clients calling him past midnight. Not unless they were naked and whispering his name. My best friend Lily was the first to tell me I needed to confront him. We'd known each other since we were 6, and we'd made a promise pinky to pinky that no man would ever come between us. "He's not worth it if he's lying," she said, curling her legs under her on my couch, sipping wine like it was blood. But when I started checking Ethan's messages, because yes, I went there, I didn't find the name of some mystery woman. What I found were messages to her. To Lily. "Last night was dangerous, but fuck, it was worth it. I can't stop thinking about your mouth. The way you moan. Photos. Blurry. Dark." But I knew Lily's figure. Her hair. Her legs. I stared at my phone in silence for almost 10 minutes. My hands trembled so hard I dropped the screen. It cracked against the floor like my chest had cracked open. That night, Ethan kissed me goodnight. Tucked my hair behind my ear like he hadn't just been inside my best friend the night before. And Lily? She still laughed with me over lunch, still called me her soul sister. I wanted to rip her fucking throat out. But I didn't. Instead I called Mason. Mason was Lily's husband. Tall. Tattooed. Blue eyes like ice when he stared at you too long. A little dangerous. Too quiet at parties. The kind of man who always stood in the corner, but noticed everything. He answered on the second ring. "Hi Ava," he said. His voice was smooth and unreadable. "I need to talk to you," I said. "About Ethan. And Lily." A pause. "I'll come over." He didn't ask what it was about. He didn't ask why I wasn't calling Lily instead. He just knew. When he stepped into my apartment, it was late. Nearly 1 a.m. He wore a leather jacket and dark jeans. He looked like something that shouldn't belong in a doctor's sterile white apartment. He looked like trouble. I poured him a glass of whiskey. He didn't drink it. "Tell me," he said, sitting on the edge of my kitchen counter. So I did. I showed him the messages. The photos. I watched his expression tighten. Not surprise, just acceptance. Like maybe he'd already known. But needed confirmation to let the rage come in full. When I was done, I expected him to punch a wall, break a glass. But he only looked at me and said, "What do you want to do about it?" And I don't know what came over me then. Maybe it was the betrayal. Maybe it was the anger. Maybe I wanted to burn everything down. Maybe I just needed to feel powerful again. Needed to feel something real. So I walked up to him, took the glass from his hand, and set it aside. Then I said, "I want to fuck you." His eyes didn't flinch. Not even a blink. But I saw it, the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers flexed. "You sure?" he asked, voice low, rough. I reached for the zipper of my dress, pulled it down slowly, deliberately. The fabric slid from my shoulders like water, pooling at my feet. I wasn't wearing anything underneath. I didn't want anything between me and the revenge I was about to take. His breath hitched. I stepped between his legs. "You going to make me beg for it?" He grabbed my waist hard, lifting me onto the counter without a word. His mouth crashed into mine. And it wasn't sweet or soft. It was teeth and heat and hunger. I wrapped my legs around him as he tugged his shirt off, revealing a chest that felt like a brick wall against my softer curves. His hands were everywhere. My breasts, my hips, gripping me like he needed to punish someone through my body. And I let him. God, I let him. When he pushed inside me, I gasped so loud I thought the neighbors would hear. He was rough, unrelenting, like he wanted to erase the memory of our spouses from both of us. I clawed at his back, bit his shoulder, pulled his hair. Say my name, he growled. Mason, I moaned. Louder. Mason. My back arched as he pounded into me, the counter cool against my spine, the friction delicious. I wasn't thinking anymore. Just feeling. Each thrust made the betrayal blur at the edges, made the pain less sharp. He came with a grunt, head buried in my neck, sweat mixing with mine. I followed seconds after, trembling, breaking apart in his arms. When it was over, he didn't speak. Neither did I. We just stared at each other. And I wondered, had I just evened the score? Or had I made things far, far worse? The morning after, I woke up in a bed that wasn't mine. Mason's apartment was minimalist, clean lines, dark wood, concrete walls, and cold silence. There were no pictures, no memories hanging up. Just like him. He was already up, shirtless in the kitchen, making coffee like nothing had happened. Like we hadn't just crossed a line so deep there was no coming back. I pulled the sheet tighter around me and walked toward him. You always this calm after screwing your wife's best friend? I asked, leaning against the counter. He didn't turn around. You always this loud when you're angry? I stared at his back, the long line of muscle down his spine. I remembered how my nails had left marks there only hours ago. I'm not angry anymore, I said quietly. He turned then, handing me a mug black coffee. No sugar. Like he somehow already knew how I took it. You will be. We didn't talk much after that. I got dressed in silence. He didn't ask me to stay, and I didn't expect him to. It wasn't romance. It wasn't softness. It was retribution, pure and sharp, dressed in sweat and skin. By the time I got home, Ethan was already in the shower. The smell of his expensive shampoo filled the hallway, clean and crisp. I stared at the bathroom door for a long minute, my hand brushing the knob before I turned away. I didn't want to look at him. Not yet. Not until I knew everything. That evening, I invited Lily over. I needed to see her face. Needed to watch her lie to me up close. She arrived in a pale blue dress, her long hair twisted into a bun. Gold hoops dangling from her ears like little halos trying to distract from the devil behind her eyes. Ava! She smiled and hugged me like we hadn't just become strangers. You look radiant. Thanks, I said, forcing a smile. It's been a weird week. We sat on the balcony, drank white wine, and stared out at the skyline like we had 1,000 times before. She talked about the hospital gossip. I nodded. She made a joke about one of our med school professors. I fake laughed. Then I turned to her and asked, Are you sleeping with my husband? She blinked. Froze. What? She said, her voice catching in her throat. I asked, I said steady and even, if you're fucking Ethan. Her eyes widened then narrowed. Where the hell is this coming from? I pulled my phone from the cushion beside me and handed it to her. Screen already open to the photos. I watched the blood drain from her face. She went pale like a patient in shock, lips parted, breathing shallow. That's not. Ava, that's not what it looks like. It looks like you're sucking off my husband in the backseat of a car. She flinched. It's not me. Don't insult me. She was shaking now, tears forming. But something about it felt off. Too practiced. Too slow. I swear to you I didn't do this, she whispered. Ava, I would never. And that's when it hit me. She was telling the truth. Not because she said the right things but because she didn't say enough. Lily lied by over-explaining. This time there was nothing. What if it's not you? I said slowly. Then who the hell is it? She stared at me and something flickered in her expression. Confusion, yes, but also fear. We didn't speak for a long minute. Just the sound of city noise, distant sirens, the hum of wind between buildings. Then she stood. I need to go, she said, brushing non-existent lint from her dress. I'll call you tomorrow. She left in such a hurry. She didn't notice that I kept her wine glass. Later that night, I poured the rest of her drink into a test tube and stored it in my personal fridge at work. It was easy, familiar, like any other sample I might need for a patient. But Lily wasn't my patient. She was a suspect. A week passed. I didn't hear from her. Not a word from Ethan. Either. Except the usual lies about late nights and closed-door meetings. He kissed my cheek like a good husband, touched me in the kitchen while making breakfast, But he never touched my soul again. And then the test came back. No DNA match. The woman in the photo wasn't Lily. But that wasn't the part that made my stomach turn. It was the other result. The second vial I'd tested. Mine. Positive. I was pregnant. At first I smiled, this one clean, unfiltered moment of joy. So bright it nearly blinded me. We'd been trying for a year. I'd cried after every failed test. Every late period that ended in blood and disappointment. And now it had happened. But something didn't feel right. Like a splinter in the back of my mind. So I went deeper. I ran a genetic test. Out of pure curiosity. I told myself it was just to be prepared, just to be careful like any doctor would be. What I found broke me open. The child wasn't just Ethan's. It wasn't mine. Not entirely. There were 2 male DNA contributors. A genetic anomaly. A deliberate tampering. And one of the donors wasn't Ethan. It was Mason. I stared at the report in silence. The sterile paper blurring in my vision. My breath caught in my throat, my heart pounding so loud I thought it might explode. There was no mistake. They had switched samples. They had planned this. Somewhere, sometime, those 2 men, the ones we trusted, the ones we married, had mixed their sperm knowing I was trying to conceive. And now, I was carrying their child. I dropped the paper to the floor. Everything felt wrong. The air. My body. My entire fucking life. My hands curled into fists as I tried to stay standing. But the weight of that betrayal knocked me to my knees. Ethan hadn't cheated with Lily. He was in love with Mason. And I was the collateral damage in a lie that had started long before I ever said, I do. I didn't scream. I wanted to. I wanted to throw something, tear the curtains off the walls, claw at the skin on my chest until I felt clean again. But instead, I sat in the dark with the paper trembling in my hand in silence, screaming louder than any sound ever could. I had carried this child with hope, with love. I had touched my belly in quiet moments and whispered promises to it. Now those promises were a lie. A baby born from manipulation. From a secret pact between the 2 men, who should have protected me. And instead used me like a vessel. The rage came slowly, like venom spreading through veins. Not wild and chaotic. No, this was cold. Focused. Clinical. I was a doctor after all. And I knew how to dissect things until only truth remained. That night, I climbed into bed next to Ethan like nothing had changed. He was reading a brief. Blue light from his tablet casting shadows over his features. I studied his face. The curve of his jaw. The way his brows furrowed when he concentrated. I had kissed that face 1,000 times. I had cried against it. Screamed into it. And he had worn this mask through it all. I got my test results, I said softly. He looked up. What test? The fertility workup. Just routine. He hesitated a second too long. Everything okay? Oh, everything's perfect, I whispered, crawling over him and straddling his waist. He raised an eyebrow. What's this? I kissed his throat. Slow and deliberate. Celebration. And I fucked him like I was erasing something. Every grind of my hips, every moan I let slip was a weapon. I wanted to see if he could feel the difference. If he could taste the poison behind my pleasure. I let him finish inside me, let him press his lips to mine and whisper, I love you. Like he meant it. Because that's what liars do best. They convince you you're the one worth saving when all along you were the target. He fell asleep quickly after, as usual. I watched his chest rise and fall, and wondered how many times Mason had watched him like this too. The next day, I requested a lunch meeting with Lily. This time, at a small bistro tucked behind the hospital, away from prying eyes. She looked exhausted, skin paler than usual, a haunted look in her eyes. You okay? I asked, stirring my tea. I haven't been sleeping, she muttered. Something's not right, Ava. I can feel it. I set my cup down. I need to ask you something. And I need you to answer honestly. No matter how insane it sounds. She nodded, wary. Did Mason and Ethan ever spend time alone? Without you or me? She blinked. Of course. They golfed together. Business lunches. Why? Did you ever suspect anything? Lily's expression changed. She looked away, then back, hesitant. There were moments. Once I walked in on them at our house. They were sitting a little too close. Mason looked like he'd just wiped his mouth. I thought, God, Ava, I thought I was being paranoid. You weren't. And I told her. Everything. The genetic test. The pregnancy. The dual DNA signatures. Lily sat frozen, lips parted, barely breathing. They did this on purpose? They planned it, I said. They used me. Used us. You were never the enemy, Lily. Her eyes welled up. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know. I know, I said coldly. But we're going to make sure they wish we never did. That night, I drove to Mason's loft again. I wore red, tight, low-cut, wicked. The kind of dress that screams danger even before you speak. He opened the door, shirtless again like before. But this time, I didn't wait for an invitation. I stepped inside, shoved him back, and kissed him hard. What's this? He growled against my mouth, hands already on my thighs. You made me pregnant, I hissed, biting his lower lip. The least you can do is keep me satisfied. He didn't question me, didn't hesitate. He grabbed me by the hips and threw me onto the kitchen counter, lips trailing down my neck like he was starved. But this time I watched him. Every twitch, every flicker of guilt, or lack of it. He was too good at this, too smooth, and it only fueled my disgust. He spread my legs, dropped to his knees, and worshipped me like a sin he'd never repent for. I came with a cry, fingers tangled in his hair, and all I felt was rage in disguise. Afterwards, I curled against him on the couch, resting my head on his chest, pretending to be soft. Mason, I whispered, tracing circles on his skin. Can I ask you something? When did it start? You and Ethan. His body stiffened beneath me. That's not important, he said too quickly. It is to me. He exhaled slowly. Years ago. Before you and Ethan even got engaged. Before I married Lily. We tried to end it. Thought it would fade. But it didn't. So why marry us? Because we needed to, he said flatly. Our families. Careers. Expectations. You know how this world works. And the baby? He didn't answer. You switched the samples, didn't you? I said. At the clinic. You knew I was doing IVF. Ethan helped you. Still nothing. I pulled away from him, sat up. You're cowards. Both of you. He stood jaw tight. Ava, this isn't black and white. No. It's blood red. He tried to reach for me. I stepped back. I'm keeping the baby, I said. But don't think for a second that means I forgive you. He nodded slowly. I don't expect forgiveness. I walked to the door, heels echoing like gunshots. One day, I said without turning, you'll regret turning me into your pawn. And with that I left. But not before slipping his phone off the table and into my bag. Inside that phone, I knew there were messages. Photos. Proof. Everything I needed to burn it all down. The screen lit up as soon as I unlocked Mason's phone. No password. Just a simple swipe. Too easy for someone who thought he'd already won. I scrolled past the usual apps, the gallery, the boring facade, until I found the folder labeled private. How original. Inside it was all there. Messages to Ethan. Photos. Videos. The kind that burned themselves into your memory and stayed there like scars. Ethan in Mason's bed. Mason on Ethan's lap. Intimate, raw, ugly truths time-stamped long before our wedding. But the worst wasn't the sex. It was the language. I miss you inside me. I wish we didn't need them. Soon we'll have our own. Our own. The baby. My baby. Or what I thought was mine. I sat on the floor of my bedroom, trembling with a mix of grief and disgust. My body curled around the small swell of my stomach, like I could somehow protect it from its origin. But that baby hadn't chosen this. It was innocent. Even if it came from betrayal. Even if it was born from a twisted plan made in the dark between two men who never even loved the women they married. The baby was mine now, and I would use it to shatter them both. The next day, I met with Lily again, this time in a hotel room I booked under a fake name. She looked thinner, her face pale and drawn. They've been texting again, she said quietly. After you left Mason's. I checked his iPad. I handed her his phone. They don't even try to hide it, I said bitterly. She flipped through the messages with shaking fingers. Her eyes brimmed with tears, but she didn't let them fall. Not yet. What do we do? We destroy them. I pulled out a flash drive. I saved everything. Messages. Photos. Even a video or two. Enough to ruin them in court, at work, everywhere. Lily swallowed. And the baby? I looked down. My hand instinctively touched my belly. They'll never get near it. She nodded slowly. And then to my surprise she leaned in and kissed me. Soft. Gentle. Nothing like the men who used us. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what? For not seeing it sooner. For letting them get away with it this long. I didn't say anything. But I kissed her back. That night I didn't go home. I told Ethan I had an emergency shift. He didn't question it, he never did anymore. Instead I stayed at the hotel. With Lily. We didn't plan anything. But our bodies were already done waiting. I kissed her slowly at first. Exploring something foreign but strangely comforting. She tasted like tears and defiance. Her hand slid over my skin with the tenderness I hadn't felt in months. When she slipped between my legs and whispered my name, I didn't think of Mason. Or Ethan. Or anything else. Only this. Only her. And when we collapsed together, tangled and breathless, I realized I didn't feel broken anymore. I felt dangerous. The next few days were a blur of preparation. We gathered evidence, backed up files, wrote emails to their partners, their firms, the hospital boards. I had legal contacts of my own. So did Lily. When the time came, we sent it all at once. Everything. To everyone. The fallout was fast and brutal. Ethan's firm put him on indefinite leave pending investigation into ethical concerns. Mason's clients dropped him overnight. The media got wind within hours. Two respected men. Both married to professional, brilliant women. Caught in a years-long deceitful affair. With a child at the center of it all. But we weren't finished. I filed for divorce. Lily did too. We did it together, walking into the courthouse side by side, heads high. Reporters waited outside. I didn't care. Let them watch. Let the world see two women who refused to be silent anymore. Two women who took back what was stolen. That night, Ethan showed up at my door. I didn't let him in. Ava, please, just talk to me. He begged, voice hoarse. You don't understand.
No.
I said coldly. You don't understand. I trusted you. I loved you. And you used me like a pawn in some fucked up game you played with your boyfriend. His face fell. It wasn't like that. Then what was it? You got bored? You thought I'd never find out? Or was I just the uterus you needed to build your perfect little family with Mason? He stepped back like I'd slapped him. Do you even want this baby? I asked. I do, he said quietly. But not like this. I never wanted to hurt you. I laughed bitterly. You built this entire thing on hurt. You and Mason. You used me. And you used Lily. You lied with every breath. His eyes filled with tears. But I didn't care anymore. Go home, Ethan. Or better yet, go to him. I closed the door in his face. And locked it. Later that night, Lily came over. We sat on the couch, legs curled under us, sipping wine, mine non-alcoholic, of course. Do you regret it? She asked softly. Which part? All of it. The baby. The revenge. Us. I looked at her. And I smiled.
No.
I regret not doing it sooner. She leaned over and kissed my cheek, and for the first time in weeks I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was finally over. Or so I thought. Because what came next would shatter everything all over again. I should have known peace was only an illusion. 2 weeks passed. The scandal had died down in the media, but whispers still followed Ethan and Mason like ghosts. Their names were mud in every legal circle. Their careers done. Our divorces moved forward quickly. Helped by the evidence we dropped like a bomb. Lily and I stayed close. We weren't anything official, not yet. But what we had felt real raw. She moved in for a while. We laughed, cooked. Nested together in a way that felt almost domestic. The calm after the storm. Until the letter came.
No envelope.
Just folded neatly, slipped under my door in the early hours of the morning. My name written in neat, masculine handwriting. I unfolded it slowly, heart tightening. Ava, before you shut this out, please just read. It wasn't meant to be like this. We never meant to hurt you. We never meant to use you. But we needed you. You were always strong. That's why we chose you. That's why I loved you. Please don't take our son away from us. Mason. I read it 3 times. Son. They already knew. I hadn't told anyone the sex of the baby. Not even Lily. The doctor had given me the results sealed in an envelope last week. And I hadn't opened it yet. I wasn't ready. But they knew. Which meant they had someone watching me. Or someone helping them. I froze. Lily. No. She couldn't. She wouldn't. Would she? Later that night, I waited until she was in the shower. I grabbed her phone and scrolled. My hands trembled, my breath shallow. At first it was clean. But then I saw it. A deleted folder in the cloud. Messages. Between her and Mason. Weeks ago. Before we had found out the truth. Before we had even spoken. He reached out to her first. She suspects something. Play along. She trusts you. Keep her close. My stomach dropped. I barely made it to the sink before I threw up. She was never mine. This was never real. I confronted her when she came out of the bathroom, towel wrapped around her, water still glistening on her shoulders. She looked innocent, soft, beautiful, and entirely poisonous. You lied to me. Her face didn't shift. Ava. I threw the phone at her feet. You lied from the beginning. You were with them the whole time. Was any of it real? She didn't answer at first. Then softly. At first no. But then. I started to fall. I laughed bitter and hollow. You fell? For me? Or for the fantasy of being the heroine in your own redemption arc? Her eyes shimmered. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I swear. Mason told me you'd figure it out eventually. That the baby would distract you. But I couldn't keep lying. I took a step back. Wrapping my arms around my belly. You helped them switch the samples, didn't you? Her silence was answer enough. They made sure I got his sperm. Not the donor I chose. They manipulated everything. She nodded, eyes falling to the floor. Why? Why go that far? She met my gaze finally. Because they didn't just want a child. They wanted a legacy. And they didn't trust anyone else to carry it. I wanted to scream. Instead, I whispered, you were my friend. I still am. No. I said, voice cold. You're just another mask they wore. She didn't fight it. She just walked to the door. Picked up her clothes in silence. Before she left, she turned back. You can hate me. You should. But they're not done, Ava. You're still carrying what they think belongs to them. And they'll come for it. The door shut behind her. And the silence felt like a noose tightening around my throat. I moved the next morning.
No warnings.
No notes. I packed a bag and left everything behind. Apartment, furniture, memories. I found a quiet rental cabin upstate. Paid in cash. Changed my number. No forwarding address.
No social media.
Just me and the baby. And silence. For a while it worked. Until one night, deep in winter, I woke to a sound outside the cabin. Crunching footsteps in the snow. Then a knock. 3 soft taps. I held my breath, heart thudding violently. I didn't move. Didn't answer. A voice came, muffled through the wood. Ava. Please. Ethan. I just want to see him. I know you had the baby. I saw the birth announcement in that small paper. The name. He's mine, isn't he? I didn't reply. He's ours. You can hate me. I deserve it. But don't punish the child. Please. I leaned against the wall, clutching the newborn sleeping in my arms. A boy. Dark hair. Green eyes. So small. So perfect. He stirred slightly, making a soft sound that broke something in me. I will never let you take him, I whispered. But he was already gone. When I opened the door 5 minutes later, all I found was a photo. Folded, placed gently on the step. It was a picture of me in the hospital bed, holding my son. Taken from outside the glass. Watching. Always watching. That was 6 months ago. Since then I've moved 3 more times. I keep the baby's name secret. I don't use the internet. I carry pepper spray. And a knife. And a rage inside me that burns so hot it lights up every corner of my darkness. Because I've realized something. They don't get to own me. Not with sperm. Not with secrets. Not with fear. This child may share their blood. But he is mine. And one day, I'll tell him the truth. But only when I know he's strong enough, when I know he's nothing like them. Until then I wait. And watch. And prepare. Because monsters wear suits. And the only way to beat them is to become something even more dangerous.